Hello again. My name is Jeff Harden, and today I have a new presentation for you. Today's presentation is about open source. The topics covered today include what is open source, a brief history of open source, some examples of open source software software versus proprietary software, why should one choose open source software, a few drawbacks of open source software, and then a short conclusion to wrap up the presentation. So that's what this presentation is going to cover. Let's get started, shall we? So to start off, we're going to go over exactly what open source is and a short history behind the development of open source. So what is open source? Open source denotes software for which the original source code is made freely available and may be redistributed and modified. It can be developed in a very public and collaborative manner. This means that a software is developed by a person or group of people and is put out for use by people. These people who use the software can then go in and change the software or fix bugs if they are found. This generates an increasingly more diverse scope of design perspective than any one company is capable of developing and sustaining on its own. And now on to a brief history of how open source came to be. In the 1980s, there was a movement called the Free Software Movement. As the name suggests, this movement was pursuing free software for consumers and businesses to be able to download and use at their will. In the 1990s, companies began launching software for free and making the source code available for programmers to be able to change and modify the software in ways not seen before. A major release that spurned this technological revolution was the release of Netscape's source code called Navigator in 1998. Also in 1998, members of the free software movement coined the term open source because these members felt that the term free software was ineffective because businesses were very reluctant to install free technologies at the time. Out of this movement, the Open Source Initiative was also started. The Open Source Initiative is a nonprofit corporation formed to educate and advocate for the benefits of open source and to build bridges among different institutions in the open source community. The Open Source Initiative fought against the idea that businesses were better off using proprietary software rather than open source developed software. Now, I'd like to provide you with some examples of some open source software. The first example I'd like to share is called Apache software. Apache is a collaborative software aimed at creating a stable, commercial-grade, feature-rich implementation of a web server, and it was developed in 1998. It is jointly managed by a group of volunteers that spans the entire globe, who use the internet to plan and develop the server. And because it is open source, hundreds of people have contributed ideas, code, and other valuable assets to the project, and today it is the world's most used web server software. The next example I have for you is a very popular one that you might have seen before, Mozilla Firefox. Firefox is a very popular open source web browser. In fact, it is the second most popular web browser in the world behind Google Chrome. It was created in 2002 by the Phoenix Foundation. Upon its release in 2004, it was praised for its speed and increased security levels that surpassed Internet Explorer. It also featured more add-ons and quickly became very popular. Today, it includes a long list of features including smart bookmarks, a download manager, and geolocation browsing. The reason Firefox has become so popular and well-balanced is because due to its open source nature, it has been changed and modified over the years by users in order to improve the features and accessibility of the software. The last example I have for you is Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a Linux-based operating system for personal computers that was released in 2004 by Canonical. Since its release, it has also become a software that is utilized in tablets and smartphones through its variation known as Ubuntu Touch. It is also utilized in network servers as their operating system. This means that a software that started as a personal computer operating system has been developed to run enterprise-featured servers, which is solid evidence of open source being a key driver in technological change in today's software. Over the last 12 years, Ubuntu has become the most popular operating system in hosting environments. Now, I'd like to compare some of the features of open source software versus the features of proprietary software. most important feature to compare here is cost. Open source programs are completely free, but proprietary software is often incredibly costly. This drives many users to desire open source software because there is nothing better than free. Open source software is designed in a dynamic, collaborative manner, while proprietary software is developed by one company. In addition to this, because open source can be changed and modified by users, the software often becomes significantly more secure and reliable than proprietary software. This also means that additional features can be added by programmers, making the software better and better. On the contrary, because proprietary software is developed and managed by a single entity, it often has significantly better customer service because the developer is the only service to go to in order to get help with the software. This slightly increases the marketability of proprietary software. However, it makes the user completely developer dependent. So why should you choose open source software? Let's start by providing some benefits of using open source software. First off, and most importantly, open source software is completely free, which provides an unbeatable cost benefit for using the open source software over proprietary software because the cost of the proprietary software is often very steep. Due to open source programs providing the source code to their software, it is incredibly adaptive. If a user utilizes an open source software but it doesn't quite meet their expectations or has a bug that needs fixing, the user can manipulate or change the coding of the software in order to fix the problem and tailor the software to their liking. This feature also increases security of open source softwares because the code can be changed to fix security issues and fortify the software. In addition, open source allows for much increased collaboration and accessibility because multiple programmers and users can access and manipulate the data to change it into something better, a feature that is non-existent on proprietary software. Hopefully by now you have started to notice a trend as to why open source software is so beneficial. Because the source code is provided, people can change the code as desired in order to meet their needs or fix the software to improve its functionality, which means that the software is of higher quality with each manipulation. Now, although there are very few, I'd like to discuss some of the drawbacks of open source software. First and most obviously, in order to develop the software or change it, some programming knowledge is required, which most lay users do not have these skills. Sometimes because open source software is developed by volunteers, incomplete or malfunctioning software can be released. More drawbacks include a lack of customer support and standardization in comparison to proprietary software. Because open source software is often developed by a group of volunteers, the programs often don't run the same as each other, and there are not people waiting at the touch of a finger to answer questions about the software. But most of these drawbacks are minimal compared to the benefits of open source software. So in conclusion, the ability of programmers to change and modify open source software allows for a plethora of benefits, like new software being developed constantly and software costs being cut by drastic amounts. The collaborative and developmental nature of open source software also allows open source developed software to outperform proprietary software. This, in addition to the cost-cutting nature of open source, is leading many businesses to stray towards software that has been developed and tested through the open source movement. This has been my presentation on open source. I hope you enjoyed it. I also hope you learned a little something, and I will see you next time. Thank you.